You wake up, you put on the right expression, you say the right things, you laugh at the right moments, and the whole time there's this voice in the back of your head asking, when did I become so good at pretending? This is about the psychology of people who feel like they're pretending to be human. And if that sentence made your stomach drop, you're exactly who this is for. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from performing normalcy. It's not about lying. It's not about faking emotions you don't have. It's something stranger. It's the feeling that everyone else received a manual on how to be a person, and you didn't. That they move through the world with this natural ease, this automatic knowing of what to do, what to feel, how to be. And you? You're constantly calculating, watching, mimicking, adjusting, trying to blend in with a species you don't quite belong to. You know how to look human. You've studied it your whole life. But underneath the performance, there's this persistent feeling. I don't know what I am, but I'm not this. And the terrifying part? You've gotten so good at pretending that no one knows. Not your friends, not your family, sometimes not even you. Because you've been performing for so long, you can't remember what's real anymore. If that feeling is familiar, subscribe now. Because what comes next is going to explain why you feel this way. And more importantly, what it means. Most people experience life from the inside. They feel something and they react. They want something and they move toward it. There's a direct line between inner experience and outer behavior. But for you, there's a gap, a split. You're not living life. You're watching yourself live it. Psychologists call this depersonalization. It's the sense that you're observing your own life from a distance, like you're watching a character in a movie who happens to look like you. You see yourself smile, you hear yourself laugh, you watch yourself have conversations. But there's this strange detachment, like you're piloting a body that doesn't quite feel like yours. And the weird part? You're good at it. You've become an expert at reading social cues, matching energy, saying the appropriate thing. But it's not instinct, it's calculation. Every interaction is a performance you're consciously directing. And when you're alone, when the performance stops, you don't know who you are. So where does this come from? Why do some people feel like they're pretending while others just exist? That's what we need to understand next. This feeling, this sense of being a stranger in your own life doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a moment, or a series of moments, when being yourself became dangerous. Maybe your emotions were too big and you learned to hide them. Maybe your family couldn't handle your real feelings, so you learned to perform acceptable ones. Maybe you were punished for being authentic, so you became a mirror instead, reflecting back whatever people wanted to see. And over time, something happened. The performance became your identity. You split yourself into two people. The one people see, the functional, appropriate, socially acceptable version, and the one underneath, the formless, undefined thing you don't let anyone near. This is what psychologists call the false self. It's a protective shell you built to survive in a world that couldn't accept the real you. And it worked. It kept you safe. It helped you fit in. It got you through. But here's the cost. You've been performing for so long that you don't remember what you were protecting. The real you, the one beneath the mask, has been locked away for so long, it's become a stranger. And now you don't know if there's anything underneath at all. And that's the question that haunts you, isn't it? What if I peel back all the layers and there's nothing there? What if the performance is all I am? Let's talk about that fear. One of the most terrifying parts of feeling like you're pretending to be human is the emptiness. Not sadness, not pain, just nothing. You look inside yourself for something solid, a clear desire, a strong opinion, a definite feeling, and you find fog. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you like. You don't even know what you feel half the time because you've spent so long asking, what should I feel, that you stopped asking, what do I feel? This is emotional amnesia. It's what happens when you suppress your authentic responses for so long that you lose access to them. You become a collection of reactions, carefully curated responses designed to fit the situation. But there's no center, no core self generating those responses. just a highly sophisticated algorithm mimicking human behavior. And here's what makes this so isolating. When people ask, "How are you?" you don't know. When they ask, "What do you want?" you freeze. When they ask, "What's wrong?" you can't explain, because the wrongness isn't a feeling, it's an absence. It's the absence of feeling like a real person. And you can't tell anyone that. Because how do you explain to someone who feels real that you don't? How do you say, "I think I'm a ghost piloting a body," without sounding insane? So you don't say anything, you just keep performing. And the emptiness grows. But here's what you need to understand. The emptiness isn't proof that there's nothing there, it's proof that something is buried. And that changes everything. Here's the truth they don't tell you. The reason you feel like you're pretending isn't because you're not human. It's because the real you, the authentic, vulnerable, messy version, went into hiding so long ago that you forgot it exists. But it does exist. It's been there the whole time, waiting. Think about the moments when the performance slips. Late at night, when you're alone and exhausted. When you're driving and a song hits you in a way you can't explain. When you're watching something that makes you feel, just for a second, like you're a real person having a real experience. Those moments aren't fake. They're not part of the performance. They're glimpses of what's underneath. The part of you that you've been protecting by pretending. Because here's what happened. At some point, you learned that showing your real self was dangerous, so you built the performance as armor. And the armor worked so well, you forgot you were wearing it. You started to believe the performance was you. And the real you, the vulnerable, uncertain, deeply feeling version, became a stranger. But it's still there, beneath the calculation, beneath the mimicry, beneath the constant question of, "Am I doing this right?" And the reason you feel like you're pretending, it's because you are pretending. Not because you're not human, but because you're pretending to be the version of human you think you're supposed to be, instead of the one you actually are. So how do you stop? How do you find your way back to the person underneath the performance? That's the hard part. The path back to yourself requires something most people aren't willing to do. You have to stop performing, even when it's uncomfortable, even when people don't understand, even when it feels like you're falling apart. Because here's the thing about the false self. It's functional, it's acceptable, it gets you through the day. And dismantling it feels like dying. Like losing the only version of yourself that knows how to survive. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is this. You're grieving the person you thought you had to be. You're letting go of the performance that kept you safe. And you're making space for something you've been running from your entire life. Uncertainty, not knowing what to say, not having the right reaction, not being sure if you're doing it right. And that feels unbearable because you've spent your whole life trying to avoid exactly that feeling. But here's what you need to understand. That discomfort, that uncertainty, isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something real is finally trying to emerge. The real you doesn't have all the answers. The real you is messy and contradictory and sometimes doesn't know what it feels. The real you is allowed to be unsure. And the moment you stop needing to have it all figured out, the moment you stop performing confidence, certainty, normalcy, that's when you start becoming real. So what does that actually look like? How do you practice being real when you've been performing your whole life? Let me show you. Becoming real isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small moments of choosing authenticity over acceptability. Here's what that looks like. Notice when you're calculating. Pay attention to the moments when you're consciously choosing your response instead of just responding. That's the performance. Just notice it. Don't judge it. Start with low-stakes honesty. Practice saying what you actually think in situations that don't matter. I don't really like that movie. I'm not in the mood for this. Small truths build the muscle. Stop filling the silence. When you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Sit with the discomfort. Let other people see you uncertain. It won't kill you. Ask yourself, what do I actually feel? Not what you should feel, not what makes sense to feel. What's actually happening in your body right now? Let people see you struggle. Stop pretending you have it together. Let someone see you confused, overwhelmed, unsure. Watch what happens. Hint, they don't reject you, they relate to you. Stop apologizing for existing. You don't need to justify your preferences, your needs, your existence. Sorry, I'm being weird. Stop saying that. Just be weird. And here's the most important part. Be willing to disappoint people. Because as long as you need everyone to be okay with you, you'll keep performing. But when you're willing to be misunderstood, rejected, or seen as too much, that's when you become free. Not free from other people. Free from the prison of pretending. Here's what I want you to understand. Feeling like you're pretending to be human doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're not real. It means you learned early on that being real wasn't safe. So you built a version of yourself that was. And that version, the performed, calculated, socially acceptable version, kept you alive. It got you through situations where authenticity would have hurt you. It protected the vulnerable parts of you that the world wasn't ready to see. But you're not in that situation anymore. And the armor that once protected you is now suffocating you. Because you can't live a real life from behind a mask. You can survive, you can function, you can get by. But you can't feel anything. You can't connect, you can't rest, you can't know yourself. And eventually, the question becomes, what's the point of being safe if you're not actually alive? The way back to yourself isn't complicated, but it is terrifying, because it requires you to stop performing and start failing, to stop knowing and start discovering, to stop pretending you're fine and start admitting you don't know what you are. And in that uncertainty, that beautiful, uncomfortable human uncertainty, you start to become real. If you feel like you've been pretending your whole life, I need you to know something. You're not an imposter. You're not broken. You're not less human than everyone else. You're just someone who learned too early that being yourself was dangerous. And now you're unlearning that, slowly, painfully, imperfectly, but you're doing it. And every time you choose honesty over performance, every time you let someone see you uncertain, every time you stop pretending you have it figured out, you're becoming a little more real. And that's not easy. But it's the only way home. If this resonated, leave a comment with one word that describes how this made you feel. Just one word, no explanation needed. That's practice. That's you being real instead of performing. And if you know someone who's been pretending their whole life, send this to them, not as advice, but as proof they're not alone. Subscribe for more psychology that doesn't pretend.